Tondo wakes before the sun. The narrow alleyways breathe with life. Vendors unfolding tarps, children chasing each other barefoot, tricycles rattling over uneven pavement. The smell of freshly fried lumpia mixes with the aroma of steaming rice. In the middle of this chaotic but vibrant world stands 17-year-old Marco de la Cruz, clutching a cheap, faded microphone in his hand. He isn't performing for a crowd, not yet. He's standing in front of the rusted gate of his family's small home, practicing the deep, velvety runs of an Elvis Presley classic. His neighbors joke that they don't need speakers in their barangay. Marco is the morning radio. But today, there's something different in the air. His voice is more focused, more emotional, more hungry. His mother watches from the doorway, wiping dishes with a towel worn thin from years of use. She smiles softly. Marco's voice is more than talent. It is their family's joy, their healing, their hope. When he sings, even the noise of Tondo quiets for a moment, as if the entire community pauses to listen. Marco begins warming up, his voice echoing down the alley. The kids imitate his Elvis hip sway, laughing as they mimic his low notes. A passing jeepney slows just to listen for a few seconds. These tiny moments built who he is. Tondo is loud, gritty, and rough around the edges, but it raised him, shaped him, and gave him the courage to dream. Inside their house, a small second-hand TV sits in the corner. It's where Marco first saw Elvis. He remembers that moment clearly, Elvis in a black leather jacket, commanding a stage with nothing but his voice and presence. Marco was only 7 years old, but something shifted inside him. He didn't understand technique, style, or stage charisma. He only knew that this man made him feel something powerful. By age 10, Marco was performing at barangay fiestas, small gatherings, and even singing contests where the prizes were grocery bags or envelopes with a few hundred pesos. He never complained, he was singing, and that was enough. His family didn't have money for singing lessons, but YouTube tutorials became his vocal coach. He didn't have a soundproof studio. He had the echo of the alley, his neighbors cheering, and the chaos of Tondo as his background music. Behind every note Marco sings lies a story he rarely shares. His father, once a jeepney driver, got sick and became bedridden. Medical bills piled up like mountains. Many nights, Marco sang quietly beside his father to soothe him, as Elvis songs became lullabies to ease pain. Those moments carved deep emotions into Marco's voice, emotions the world was about to hear. Months before his AGT audition, a volunteer group filmed Marco singing outside a local sari-sari store and uploaded it online. The video went viral across the Philippines. Comments poured in: bar, Filipino Elvis bar, this voice needs to be on AGT bar, from Tondo to the world. A few weeks later, an email arrived, an official invitation from Marco to audition for America's Got Talent. At first, he didn't believe it. His mother had to read it 3 times. Marco cried that night quietly, holding his father's hand. "Pa," he whispered, "I'll make you proud." Standing backstage at the AGT Arena in California, Marco feels like he has stepped into another universe. Bright lights, camera equipment, foreign accents. It's overwhelming. He clutches his mic with both hands, palms sweating, heart racing. He looks down at his shoes, polished but old, and wonders if the judges will judge him before he even sings. Producer asks him to talk about where he's from for the camera. He mentions Tondo. The staff exchange looks, some curious, some surprised. They know the reputation of his community, but Marco doesn't hide it. To him, Tondo isn't something to be ashamed of, it's home. When his name is called, everything slows down. His legs feel heavy as he walks toward the stage entrance. The lights spill onto him like a spotlight from heaven. As he steps into the open, the roar of the crowd fades into a soft hum. All he hears is his heartbeat. He sees Simon Cowell at the center of the judges' panel. Heidi is smiling warmly, Sophia is studying him with interest, and Howie gives a small nod. Marco takes a deep breath and introduces himself with a polite bow. His voice trembles. Simon glances down at the card in front of him and reads the words out loud. Tondo, Philippines. Marco's heart drops for a second. He can't read Simon's expression. Is he judging him? Curious? Skeptical? Then Simon leans back in his chair, crosses his arms, and says, "All right, let's hear it." The room goes silent. The lights dim. Marco adjusts the microphone like Elvis used to, confident but gentle. The first guitar note plays. Marco closes his eyes. For a moment, he is no longer in America's Got Talent. He is back in Tondo, singing under the same sky that watched him grow. He opens his eyes and sings. The moment Marco grips the microphone, the entire AGT auditorium holds its breath. The soft blue spotlight washes over him, creating a halo-like glow around his silhouette. Even from the back row, you can see his hands trembling slightly, yet his posture remains steady, almost princely. A single guitar chord rings through the speakers, then another. Then the familiar opening riff of an Elvis classic vibrates across the room. Marco lifts his chin, he exhales, and then, with a calmness that contradicts everything raging inside him, he opens his mouth and releases the first note. It hits the air like a lightning bolt. A deep, rich, velvety sound, smooth yet powerful, spills across the venue. It's unmistakably Elvis, but it's also unmistakably Marco. There is something raw in his voice, something that comes from years of singing through pain, through hunger, through nights when hope felt far away. The front row reacts first, heads popping up, jaws dropping, then the midsection rises a little taller in their seats. A ripple of shock spreads through the room, but the biggest reaction comes from Simon Cowell. He leans forward instantly, eyebrows raised. His usual unbothered expression melts into surprise, real, genuine surprise. It's as if he just discovered a diamond where he expected gravel. Heidi places her hand on her chest, smiling as though she's been transported back in time. Sophia's eyes widen in admiration, and Howie silently mouths the word, "Wow!" Marco doesn't see any of this, not yet. With his eyes closed, he pours himself into each lyric, letting the deep resonance of his voice fill every corner of the massive room. He makes subtle movements, not exaggerated or showy, just enough to echo Elvis's iconic charm, a slight sway of the hips, a smooth shift of the shoulders, a gentle lift of the lip during certain lines. The audience loves it. Halfway through the performance, he hits the first big note, a soaring high line that rings out with strength and emotion. The crowd erupts instantly, cheers burst through the air like fireworks. Even the judges, who are usually composed during performances, can't help but react. Heidi gasps loudly. Sophia claps mid-song. Howie nods vigorously, grinning from ear to ear, but Simon's reaction is the most electrifying. He flashes a rare smile, one of those genuine, proud smiles that AGT fans replay for years. He shakes his head in disbelief, almost laughing in amazement. Then comes the bridge of the song, the part that makes or breaks any Elvis performance. The music softens, the energy dips into something more intimate. Marco steps forward, letting the microphone hover close to his lips. His voice drops into a deep, warm register that makes the entire room lean in. You can hear pin-drop silence. Even the camera crew stops moving. Marco opens his eyes for the first time since he began. They shine under the stage lights, filled with emotion, memories of home, and the weight of every dream he carried from Tondo. He scans the audience, then the judges, then the balcony seats. For a moment he is stunned by what he sees. People, thousands of people, in complete awe. It fuels him, it ignites him, and then he unleashes the final part of the song. The music swells. He raises his voice, not just singing but soaring, commanding the entire stage with a presence far bigger than his young age should allow. His tone grows stronger, his vibrato fuller. His voice pierces the air like a beam of gold, cutting through the hearts of every person listening. Then, the final note. He holds it, longer than anyone expects, stronger than anyone imagined, perfectly controlled, perfectly steady, perfectly Elvis, yet perfectly his. The crowd explodes. People leap to their feet. Cheers shake the entire auditorium. A wave of energy floods the room like a storm. Marco lowers the microphone slowly, chest rising and falling. His hands shake, this time not from fear, but from the overwhelming tidal wave of applause crashing over him. Backstage, the crew is stunned. Some watch with wide eyes. Others whisper things like, "Where did this kid come from?" Or "That might be the best Elvis voice I've ever heard." On stage, the judges stand, but none as dramatically as Simon Cowell. He rises with force, pushing back his chair so hard it nearly bumps into the table. He claps loudly, one of those rare full-standing ovations he reserves only for performances that truly shock him. His smile is wide, genuine, proud. Marco sees it. His breath catches. His eyes water instantly. He covers his face with both hands as the audience chants his name. Cameras zoom in, capturing a young man from Tondo experiencing the greatest moment of his life on the world's biggest stage. It is more than a performance. It is a breakthrough, a dream colliding with reality. And it isn't over yet. The judges still have to speak. The applause feels endless, like waves crashing over Marco one after another, refusing to fade. The entire auditorium is still on its feet, and the roaring cheers feel almost unreal. Marco stands frozen in the center of the stage, both hands over his mouth, trying to process what just happened. Just minutes ago, he was a boy from Tondo, terrified that the world might not understand him. Now he is standing under golden lights, bathing in the kind of ovation only a few PE reformers in AGT history have ever received. The music fades, the lights shift, but the audience continues shouting his name. Finally, after nearly 30 seconds of thunderous applause, the judges motion for the crowd to settle. Slowly, the noise softens, though excitement still buzzes in the air like electricity. Marco lowers his hands from his face, wiping at the tears forming in the corners of his eyes. He tries to steady his breathing, but his chest rises and falls rapidly, overwhelmed by emotion. His mother is shown backstage watching the monitor, crying openly, whispering prayers of gratitude, her hands pressed tightly against her mouth. Simon leans forward first, elbows resting on the judging table. He studies Marco quietly, letting the moment breathe. The crowd senses it, going silent almost instantly. Then Simon speaks. His tone is soft but firm, filled with sincerity. "Marco, that didn't just sound like Elvis. That sounded like someone who lived that music. Someone who felt it. Someone who carried it in his heart." Marco swallows hard, nodding, tears slipping down his face. Simon continues, "You didn't perform a song. You shared your story with us. And let me tell you something. I didn't expect that voice to come from someone so young." The audience bursts into cheers again, but Simon lifts a finger to finish. "You have something very rare, authenticity. You are not an impersonator, you are an artist. And this," he gestures wide, sweeping his arm toward the stage, "this is one of the best Elvis-inspired performances I have ever heard in my life." The crowd screams. Some fans in the front row wipe their eyes. Even the camera crew looks emotional. Heidi is next. Her voice trembles almost as much as Marco's. "From the very first note, you transported us. I felt like I was watching a superstar born right in front of me. Your tone, your control, your sense. Everything was magical." She places a hand on her heart. "And the fact that you're from Tondo, that you came all this way. You showed the world tonight that talent can come from anywhere." Marco nods, lips shaking as he whispers, "Thank you." Sophia leans forward, her eyes shining warmly. "I think what touched me most wasn't just your voice. It was your emotion. I could see your journey in your eyes when you sang. I could feel every struggle and every dream. You made us feel something beautiful tonight." The audience cheers loudly. Marco looks down, overwhelmed, a tear finally rolling down his cheek. Then it's Howie's turn. Howie gives a big smile. "You know what I love?" He says, "You walked on this stage like a shy kid, and then boom, you turned into a superstar." The crowd laughs and cheers. Howie continues, waving dramatically, "America is going to love you. The world is going to love you. This is what AGT is all about. Someone who comes here with nothing but a dream and shocks us all." Marco presses a hand to his chest, breathing heavily, trying to hold himself together. When the judges finish, Simon glances at the others. A silent communication passes between them. The arena grows tense with anticipation. People in the audience lean forward, sensing something big is coming. Marco notices Simon reaching toward his microphone button slowly, thoughtfully. The crowd begins to murmur. You can feel the energy rising. Studio lights sharpen. The tension builds. Simon clears his throat. Marco's heart feels like it might burst through his chest. "I think." The audience screams that this might be the start of something huge for you. Then Simon smiles. A real smile. Confident, proud. "You deserve something special." He moves his hand. The room explodes. But not because he pressed the golden buzzer. Instead, Simon points at him and says, "Your journey starts now, and I cannot wait to see what you do next." The crowd roars so loudly the cameras shake. The lack of a golden buzzer doesn't matter, because the world just witnessed something bigger than a buzzer moment. Marco sobs openly now. He covers his face again as the audience chants, "Marco, Marco, Marco!" Backstage, his mother collapses into tears, overwhelmed with pride. Crew members hug her as she cries, "That's my son! That's my son!" Marco steps forward, bowing deeply to the judges, the audience, the world. His voice trembles as he speaks. "Thank you. Thank you so much. This means everything to me, and to my family, and to Tondo." The audience erupts again at the mention of his hometown. The lights fade. The applause continues, and Marco walks off the AGT stage not just as a contestant, but as a rising star. From the crowded alleys of Tondo to the biggest stage in America, his dream has only just begun.